he wrote this in a letter: "If it can be shown that a single cell life form is indeed complex, my theory immediately breaks down. Christianity, if false, is of no importance, and if true, is of infinite importance." Why is it that some people really struggle to believe? I want to look at now Charles Darwin's impossible faith. Why did Charles Darwin find it impossible to believe? And as we do this, we're looking at somebody who is, by all acknowledgement, one of the most influential people, not just on Western thinking, but on universal thinking.
When he was invited to sail on the HMS Beagle, literally around the world.
On the Beagle, he was very interested. Wherever they pulled into port, he was interested to have a look at the landscape. So Tasmania was a part of this world trip, and they sailed from Tasmania around to South America. And this is where it gets fairly famous, where off the coast of was it Chile, Argentina, there is a group of islands called the Galapagos Islands. They're a small cluster of islands. And this is where Darwin observed a number of animals that he'd never seen before. One, you may have seen these guys, the iguanas, these guys who, there were varieties of these guys who seemingly, your average lizard doesn't swim in water. But it wasn't the iguanas that really got him wondering. It was birds, finches to be precise, that got Darwin onto the early beginnings of what we now know as the theory of evolution. And he saw finches who were on various parts of the islands that had completely different shaped beaks that were perfectly accustomed to the island, the type of island where they were. This got Darwin thinking that maybe there's a series of mutational changes that take place to produce this, what he called the survival of the fittest, the ones who couldn't adapt die off. So this began his ideas. Now this is what Darwin didn't know. He was only, I think he was at the Galapagos Islands, for 5 weeks. I think it was around about that. It was a matter of weeks. What he didn't know. So I want to show you this about his finches, which is almost the entire basis of his theory of evolution, the Galapagos finches.
A severe drought could cause many of the finches to die and leave only those with larger beaks. So in the following generation, the average beak size was increased. And some textbooks extrapolate this over 200 years or so and say that a few of these events strung together could transform these finches into a new species by making their beaks larger.
Look, this stuff about finch beaks is certainly interesting. Let's not confuse ourselves about that. The question is, can it be extrapolated, or does it represent cyclic variation?
What the books fail to mention is that as soon as the rains came back, the average beak size returned to normal. There was no net evolution. What we're really seeing is just one species oscillating back and forth with no real evolutionary change. So the evidence is exaggerated to make it appear to support Darwin.
Whoops. Yeah, and this is something that Darwin didn't know. He didn't realise that it is a cycle of beak changes. And I wonder how he would have changed his ideas if he had known just that. But here's something else Darwin didn't know. Darwin did not know about DNA. Darwin did not know about DNA. He had no idea about DNA. He understood a little bit about genetics, the fact that there was some kind of information that defined what a species was, but he didn't know what it was that was defining it. Imagine this book is DNA information. And imagine we were to convert the information that goes to make you, into DNA code. Now, for those of you that understand DNA, it's made up of just 4 different characters. C, G, A, T. C, G, A, T. Out of these 4 codes arranged and then assembled, all life exists. Darwin didn't know this. That information needs to be there before the DNA assembles. The DNA cannot create the information necessary to create itself. The information exists before it's assembled. If we were to take your DNA code, your personal genome, and was to be represented in here, do you know how many of these we'd need to make up you? We could probably go from here to the moon. That's how complex you are. Do you know what the chances are? Not that everything's by probability, but do you know the probability of that just happening? It's impossible. In fact, the odds are more than the number of molecules in the entire universe of it happening. That kind of makes it impossible, I think. So, Darwin did not know about DNA. Neither did he know about this, the complexity of a single cell. He didn't know about it. In fact, he wrote this in a letter: if it can be shown that a single cell life form is indeed complex, my theory immediately breaks down, he wrote. That's why scientists who want to hold to Darwinian evolution now hold to what's called the neo-Darwinian synthesis, the idea of how we now integrate this information about what we know about a cell. This, by the way, is a snapshot of a cell. In this picture, you will see amino acids, you will see proteins, you will see DNA organising these things in one cell. And Darwin said, if that is the case, my theory entirely breaks down. Why? Because that's a single cell. You need all of that together at the same time in order for there to be life. You can't just take one component, add another bit, and gradually add it, and then ping, life. It doesn't work that way.
If you'd like to get your own copy of this DVD and the other DVDs in this series, would you please contact us by going to findingtruthmatters.org, and you'll see our resources section there where we have these DVDs listed. I'm Andrew Corbett. Thanks for watching this.